Good morning, everyone. I am live, and it's nice to have everyone tuning in here. I am with the motivational firewood guy, which I'm starting with that because I'm so intrigued to find out how the name came about. Um, but I am with Steve. Excuse me, all of a sudden I'm going to lose my voice. I am with Steve Gamlin, and Steve's going to share his positivity and humor with us today. And I love your, we were just talking offline, we didn't even get to this, but one of the things in your bio that you shared with me is you talk a lot about vision boards.
Yes.
And I was working with a client this month and we were talking about vision boards. And I love that because I am such a vision type of person where I say, you got to see it, you got to drive towards it. And so we're gonna share that. But Steve, tell, as people are starting to tune in and everything this morning, tell everyone about who you are and give us a little bit of a background. I said the first thing I noticed was your amazing radio voice, but you said you just came to that voice. So tell me a little bit about you.
Thank you, Sari. Great to be here. And thank you so much for having me as part of the show. For me, this whole journey started when I was about 8 or 9 years old. And I saw a TV show called WKRP in Cincinnati about a fictional radio station. And I saw this guy named Dr. Johnny Fever, who had kind of scraggy, shaggy hair. He wore sunglasses indoors, which
Love
I
that
thought was
show.
so cool.
Yeah.
And he played records and talked on a microphone. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. So in my early 20s, I finally, after years of not really pursuing it, actually got into the radio industry. And I did that for 10 years. And I was not a DJ, though. I didn't have the confidence to get on the mic. I was a rock radio morning show producer. And I
Mhm.
didn't get on the mic until the last year or two of my career because I had to. Our morning guy quit. And I worked about 15 years worth of hours in 10 and just burned out. And at age 35, I walked away from radio, went through a divorce, was near bankrupt, and it all kind of fell into the ashes for a year or so.
Mhm.
And one afternoon, I was hitting golf balls in a thunderstorm at a driving range under power lines, barefoot in the wet grass, daring the storm to hit me, kind of a low point. And I hit all my golf balls in the buckets of two people who ran away from the storm and left their golf balls. And that week, I was talking with a brand new life coach. And I made that story. He said, "What happened this week?" And I told him that, made it as funny as I could. And he said, "You ever thought of being a motivational speaker or a stand-up comedian?" And I'd wanted to do both for years.
Mm.
It was the next level of everything I'd wanted to do my whole life. And I said, "Yeah, but I have no idea how to start." And he gave me two pieces of information. Within a month, I was planting the seeds for both. And like I said, right near the end of my radio career is when I fell into my actual authentic voice
Mhm.
as it is. And as it turns out, it's the one I should have been using right along.
But I think that sometimes, it's in you and something has to happen. I never like to see people hit rock bottom, but sometimes that some journey has to take you there to really bring out, who you are. Um, I have to ask, did you find yourself um, not being funny? Because I think, there's stand up and tell a joke funny, or there's just, I have a son who just says dead right on funny things. He just the observational funny, the world around him.
Mm-hmm.
So did you find yourself doing that in your everyday life? And that's how you kind of knew um, like it was in you to to sort of have that humor?
Yes, and it's exactly the same as your son. It's the everyday life observation. Even
Mm-hmm,
when I did stand up, I did it for 7 years.
mm-hmm.
It wasn't tell a joke funny. It was always the storytelling and
Yeah.
and things that I'd encountered in life. So it meshed so perfectly when I was beginning as a speaker. Now, you got to be careful with humor because I was using it to be very, very self-deprecating, which robbed me of all my authority. And I had a couple friends intervene upon me after a 3-day speaking event about a decade ago and said, "Okay, brother, that was funny, but you lost the audience, you lost your credibility." So they said, "Use humor for good." And
Yeah.
I've done it ever since then. And it makes things memorable. It drives lessons home. It creates better impact. And I've just found that it works. It's almost effortless for me, even though I work really hard at creating it.
So what kind of audiences for those who are listening, and it's sort of we're going to talk about the pandemic a little bit because
Mhm.
someone like yourself has certainly been heavily impacted by it. But what kind of audiences do you usually seek you out or you seek out?
Sales teams have been growing actually over the past year in becoming part of my client roster.
Mhm.
People in the real estate industry, that's been historically a
Oh,
very popular one for me because so many of them are kind of in a way out on their own and they're independent. And so
okay.
that personal development side, as well as their professional development that they get from the company, has been powerful. And over the past year, especially because of the pandemic, people in direct sales who may be used to doing home parties or being part of expos and now have to translate that into being online. Some of my clients are having their best years ever because they were stuck at home and they learned and they grew their confidence in their voice and their connectivity and their personalities through a little tiny webcam. And some of them are having their best years ever.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I just had this conversation with a very good colleague. And, you can choose to have a really good year. I really believe that. And sometimes you have to cheerlead yourself. But, the truth is, we laugh a little bit about the words that are coming out of the pandemic: pivot, adapt, and things like that. But there is some real good truth behind it,
Mhm.
that, people I've talked to um, in the course of this year, those that are doing that and reimagining how you do business are surviving.
Mhm.
And I deal a lot with small businesses. How have you changed from standing in front of a conference room or ballroom of people? How have you had to change your business model?
It's been at first it was a really big challenge because
Mhm.
I love being in a room with people and just having those moments of
The
connection eye to
interaction.
eye
Yeah,
and
for sure.
interaction as well and seeing that person way in the back of the room waving a thumbs up or something. I miss that. But what I started to do is realize that the camera that I'm looking into right now is someone's eyes.
Mhm.
So I need to engage with that. And I need to take everything I did in a big 20 by, 15-foot stage and move it into a 2 to 3 inch camera,
Yeah.
but still maintain the connection, the electricity, the humor, the style, the warmth, and all of that. And it's funny, I've heard the word pivot so many times over the
I
past year.
know.
I've never actually used it. Somebody says, "How are you pivoting your business?" I said, "I'm not. I'm bouncing it off the wall a different way, because that's more my style." But I tell you what, the greatest gift of the pandemic is all of especially the visualization and vision board work that I was doing in person with companies. We made a digital platform delivery system for it. And so now I don't have to get on a plane. We also built in a follow up coaching program that we never even thought to
Right.
create before. So, because of necessity, instead of just crawling in a corner and waiting for everything to come back, we went out there and attacked it and said, all right, well, we can't come to you. How can we get our message to you? So, the greatest gift of the past 14 months has been a platform we created that we never even thought to create prior to that.
So I have to tell you, Steve, this is one of the things that, and I love talking with people like yourself who say things like that, because I think it's so encouraging to people who are having a down moment. And I say moment.
Oh, I've lost the audio here. I can't hear you. Oh, there you are, I believe. I think you might be back.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. So sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what happened, but
Yep. I know.
it delayed a second and then I lost your voice. Sorry.
All right, let's see. All right, or maybe we're back.
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, hang on. Let me get.
Sorry about that.
Love technology always.
Yes, exactly.
But what I was saying is that, I think that what people have to, realize is that you're going to have these days, and then it you have to find what works, and then and keep going and changing it. And what I want to get to with you is that vision board of when you're sort of trying to figure out what's next, how
Mm.
you pull yourself up, and what you do with your clients, or when you're talking to people, how you bring in the vision board. Tell
Hmm.
me a little bit, give me one little trick that you do with people.
Yeah, one of the first conversations I have with people is I'll ask if they've ever heard of visualization or vision boards of the law of attraction. And some may say, well, I saw The Secret. I say, yeah, me too. And I don't have genies and magic lamps, which The Secret did. That's my one knock on The Secret. The rest of it I'm pretty comfortable with. But what I'll ask people is say, look, okay, think of where your life is right now. And I'll say either career, finances, physical health, emotional well-being, relationships, connection with the real world, your spirituality, ethics, morals, values. I'll say, just think of one part of your life right now. Think of where it is now. Now think a year from now, what would you like it to look like, feel like, sound like, smell like, be like? And we start to attach the senses to it and give them a sense of hope and potential and possibility to say, just within a year, don't give me that 20-year guru, $20 million asset value, home mansion, private jet, yacht stuff.
Mm-hmm.
None of that. A year from now, what would you like it to look like, feel like, sound like, smell like, be like? And say, well, this, okay, what would you have to do to get there? And what would be the first step? Or if you're not sure the first step, just say, okay, if you were there, what would you have had to do to get there? Let's say in the area of health. I've got a health goal for the end of this year. And what I'm saying is not, I don't want to be more healthy. I want a certain number on my scale.
Mm-hmm.
And if I see that number on my scale, that means I need to exercise more than I have during the pandemic, which is virtually none. I've got to choose better food. I've got to get enough sleep every night. I've got to be active throughout the day. Even if I'm working from home, get up, walk around the block, go get the mail.
Right.
Something. I've just got to get up and keep moving. So to think of all the little steps it will take to get closer to any one goal. Who are you going to have to bring into your life? What you're going to have to learn? Who are you going to have to become on that journey? So that way we're not just writing letters to Santa Claus or wishing with genies and
Right.
magic lamps.
I like that. And I like that it's really broken down. So you can see, I like to say you can see a little farther, where you want to go, but sometimes that's just too far.
Yeah.
It's just too, it's too much to take. So, what you're saying is let's, take those baby steps.
Yeah.
What do you need to get there? And, but what I also like about it is, I'm very visual. Sometimes, you know, my, I know that my kids laugh at me because I'll say, you got to see it to believe it. You got to
Yep.
and I've got, very different kids. I've got the ones, I've got the very creative one who can, get on board with that. And I've got two very you know, I don't get that, mom, and so I like what you're saying because you can, really pull things out of a magazine and do the creative vision board that way, but you can also really break it down.
Yes.
Um, what do you think, we're starting to see the world change a little bit. people are getting vaccinated. I'm careful to say how the world is going to open up. I mean, um, how our dance card is going to get filled. How do you think then your business will change? I'm anxious to add that into my mix of questions to people. As a marketing and publicist, I'm curious how people will change back or add, this hybrid way of doing business. I sort of am taking a mental survey in my own head, I think.
Yeah. I think it is going to be a hybrid because I think a lot of people and a lot of companies had realized over the past 13 months that it is possible to work from home even part of the week. And I think I'm already seeing and hearing some of these bigger companies that had these big, huge buildings full of people that are now getting out of the buildings
Yeah.
because they realize it may actually be more profitable to, if not just work remotely, but to also have that socialization of doing a hybrid model in a smaller footprint. For me, I would love to continue doing what I'm doing remotely. Now, I do want to get back out there and speak,
Mhm.
obviously, because I miss live audiences. But I think the gift of it is, kind of like I said earlier, discovering this new way and platform of delivering
Yeah.
where I can actually reach more people this way with a
Well,
newer
I think
model.
that's where your job becomes even more important. I talked to a magician who I adore, I've had on, and I think people in your business, become so important because people are at home working. And I've talked to, I have a client who is in a very high-end recruiter. And I tell her all the time about some of the people I'm interviewing to mention, motivational speakers, because if you've got people all over, you need to bring your teams together,
Yeah.
for a lunchtime hour of check-in. How are you doing? How, it can't just be work all the time. It needs to be a different type of work,
Right.
a different type of way of doing business, I think. And so therefore, not everybody is going to get on a plane, but not everybody is in a building
Right.
together.
Right. And there's a company I'm working with right now. They all went through my program, the online platform of it. And every month we get together for 30 to 45 minutes on a call. And I told them the other day, I said, look, I don't ever want to be one of those calls that you go, oh, dear gosh, we got to speak with
Yeah.
Steve today. I said, this is our connection. We're actually building the fabric of their relationships. Even though they're now not in the same building, they've all shared that their relationships with each other, they're cheering each other on more than ever. They're realizing how connected their lives are, even though they haven't seen each other in months face to
Mhm.
face. And it's just, it's having that touch point and creating that way and understanding that the picture is so much bigger than us staring at a desk all day long.
Mhm. Well, you can find Steve Gamlin at motivationalfirewood.com, which leads me to, how did you come up with this name?
Very early in my career, I attended the National Speakers Association of New England meeting. It was my first time there, so I had that blue badge, new person. It just says, hi, my name is Steve, and that's it. So I'm walking in going, oh gosh, I don't know anybody here. And a gentleman named Don said, oh, Steve, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Don. So what do you do? I said, well, I'm becoming a motivational speaker. And he said, well, what sets you apart? I said, I want to help people. He said, Steve, we all want to help people. And he was so gracious with his time. And for about the next 3 to 5 minutes, he just kept asking me questions about what set me apart. And finally, I said, Don, if somebody comes to hear me speak, they've got a spark of something in their heart, just an idea of where they want their life to be. So if I share a story, a lesson, an action they can take, and they wake up the next day and do something, it's kind of like I gave them motivational firewood. And he went, ooh, do you know anything about trademarks? And I said, not a clue. He said, look it up. I love the concept. It's a cool name. And I love the way your face just lit up when you told me that. I said, stay with that, young man, and you'll do okay. And I've been motivational firewood ever since. Had the trademark for about 14 years now.
And I want to point that out because it is trademarked. And as someone, again, as a publicist in marketing, smart guy, you
Thank you.
trademarked it.
Thank
And
you.
that is no easy task. as you
Oh, that's a lot of paperwork.
as I want to point out to anybody listening who knows anything about trademarks, or if you don't, because I get that question a lot. Can I trademark this idea? Trademarking idea does not exist, but trademarking a name is super important. And by the way, if you have an idea, and you can go into pending a trademark, and you should, because it's a wise idea, but you're right. It is a lot of paperwork.
It's daunting for somebody
not
creative like
inexpensive.
me to read all those big words going, what does this mean?
Right. Well, and I would just follow up. It's not inexpensive um, paperwork, but it is well worth it, and that's why I wanted to get to it. But the motivational fireword guy, motivationalfirewood.com. It is under my link today, as we were talking. I'm so glad we had this time together this morning. Thank you so much for coming on. Sorry about the audio glitch, but that's apparently the world we live in too.
Yep, it is.
I recommend a Yeti microphone, but I don't know why. It gave me some trouble yesterday, and apparently some more trouble today.
Well, that's what I'm using
May
as
need
well.
a new
So
one.
somewhere in between came the interference.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for coming, and keep me posted on everything that's going on.
Will do. Thank you, Sari.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.